Here's my question. Black community, when are you going to collectively stand up and say to the entire music industry, why are we the only group of people that you have glorifying criminal activity? Why are we the only group of people that you have glorifying criminal activity and feeding our children some of the most negative lyrics to ever exist? See, here's the reality. The reality is none of you should have ever came for India Arie. And I'm going to tell you why. India Arie came out during an era where the Black community was at a turning point. Now, if any of you remember when India Arie came out, she came out during the neo soul era. This is the era of Music Soul Child. This is the era of Jill Scott, Floetry, Raheem Devon, Bilal, who else? Vivian Green, Amel LaRue, Galope, however you pronounce her name. That was an era. That was an era that almost saved the Black community. I'm going to say it again. That was an era that almost saved the Black community. In fact, many of you that finally decided to step away from the BS and actually grow up, it's because of that era. It's because of that era. And I would argue that that was the last era where we actually had an influx of soulful, good music. In fact, I would even argue that that era of neo soul was so powerful and so prolific, they had to give you some BS right behind it. Because it ain't no coincidence. Let me tell you something. It ain't no coincidence that all of those different groups just stopped being promoted. All of those different artists. I don't know if y'all noticed, those artists just stopped being promoted. And it's not like they weren't charting. It's not like they weren't charting. They were charting. Every artist that I just named, they had a hit. They had at least one. And I remember this because this is around the time I had my first apartment. And I'll never forget it because I'd be sitting in the crib, chilling on the late night. BT Midnight Love would come on and it'd be playing all of them joints. All of them joints. They would play Real by Amel LaRue. They would play Emotional Roller Coaster by Vivian Green. They would play Love by Music Soul Child. They'd play Brown Skin by India Arie. They'd play Closer. They played, oh my God. They played Soul Sister by Bilal. That era was different. That era was different, bro. That music had me on a different mindset, bro. That music had me at the crib doing feng shui, my guy. That music had me, and keep in mind, that's the same era that Dead Prez came out in. That's the same era of it's bigger than hip hop. That was a very conscious era. A very conscious era. That was the era of mind sex. We ain't got to take our clothes off yet. Let's sit back and just chat. That was a different era, bro. That was an era of that was an era where I don't know about the rest of y'all, but my consciousness was way higher at that point. That was an era of me doing feng shui. That was an era of me reading a lot. That was an era of me meditating. That was an era. That was a different era. That era almost saved the Black community. So we can't look at India Arie and compare her to Carisha. Are we serious? Not to mention the fact, I bet many of y'all didn't even know this.
I agree with everything.
I bet many of y'all didn't even know this about Young Miami. This is what makes her song so messed up. This right here is what makes her song Spin That even more messed up.
Young Miami making a song about boosting and her mom actually going to prison for said boosting is extremely insensitive to the victim that her mom killed. I'll explain. About 10 years ago, Young Miami's mom, I believe, went to prison. I think it was about 2015 after being on the run. And the result was her and her boyfriend at the time went to Aventura Mall down here in South Florida. And the mom and the boyfriend were stealing purses. As the mom and the boyfriend were trying to escape the police, they ended up running through a red light. They end up killing a 40-something-year-old grandmother. As a result, the boyfriend went to prison. Young Miami's mom went to prison. Her mom got out just a few years ago because Young Miami posted, I believe, in about 2021, that she was very excited for her mom to be getting out of prison. Here we are, not even 5, 6 years later, Young Miami is now making a song and being celebrated for said song that is the literal thing that her mom went to prison for. I personally feel that that song is extremely, extremely insensitive to the victim's family that Young Miami's mom killed. And it is showing that we are glamorizing boosting culture. But y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all just want to dance.
So for those of you that were unaware, Young Miami's mother and Young Miami's mother's boyfriend were scammers and boosters. They were at a mall in Miami trying to steal some purses or whatever. Almost got caught and were fleeing from the police. Ran a red light. Took out somebody's grandma. And a few years later, Young Miami makes a song glorifying scamming and boosting. If that's not the definition of do you have no shame, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. That has got to be the most shameless thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Now, for those of you that want to say, oh, it's just music, Angry Man, it's just music, right? So if it's just music, Then explain this to me. If it's just music and there's nothing wrong with it, then could you explain to me why young Miami doesn't want her daughter to be a city girl?
Comes to you as pretty as she is and says, "Mom, I want to be a city girl."
She ain't gonna be no city girl.
So Summer ain't allowed to be no city girl?
No. I want her raised totally different. Like, I don't even want her to even see the light of day like that. Like, I really want her to just be like, like level-headed, a schoolgirl, and just on a whole nother ways. Like, I kind of was raised different, so I don't want to raise her up how I was raised. So, I'm a city girl, ain't nothing wrong with it, but I don't want that for my daughter.
So if there's nothing wrong with being a city girl, there's nothing wrong with being a city girl. Right?
No.
Why it ain't good enough for her daughter? If it's good enough for your daughters, why it ain't good enough for her daughter? If she don't want her daughter to be a city girl, why your daughter got to be a city girl? If she don't want her daughter listening to her music, why is she marketing that same music to your daughters? Explain that to me. Does that make sense? She said it right there, plain and simple. She does not want her daughter to be a city girl. She does not want her daughter raised up like that. You know what it made me think about? It made me think about a photo I saw online of young Jeezy in a suit standing next to his son who had graduated college, I think, with his cap and gown. And somebody put the caption, "He told your kids to trap or die, but made sure his kid got a decent education." So I'm going to tell you the truth. These individuals in the music industry, these are the real sellouts. These are the real coons. See, you don't realize they're selling out your children to make their money. And they don't care because they're making certain that their children don't consume that crap. I've even heard Cardi B say she don't let her daughter listen to her music. It's no different than Beyonce making a song called All the Single Ladies. When was the last time Beyonce was single? You got all of these female rappers making these songs about being single, and many of the ones making songs about being single are married. They telling you not to be in a relationship with a dude. Meanwhile, they in a relationship. Always in a relationship. Even if their relationship failed, they go from one relationship to another one. But they telling you not to be in a relationship. I mean, at what point are you going to realize what the game is? At what point are you going to realize that people in certain positions get people that look like you to tell you to do some shit that they themselves ain't going to do? Like, seriously. At what point do you realize that the game is being ran on you? Like they're running the game. They're running the game, whether you want to recognize it or not. But if you took your daughter and you put her in front of two women and had to make a choice between India Arie and Young Miami, right? You only get to pick one to influence her. One to be the voice in her head about what a woman is. Tell me that's a hard choice. And I'll tell you exactly what's wrong with this culture. See, India Arie is not a trend. She's literally the neo soul era in flesh. Everything about her was self-love, natural hair, dignity, substance. You could play her albums right now today. We're talking about timeless music. Half the women walking around proud of their natural hair today are literally standing on what she normalized during a time where that wasn't even a normal thing. So India Arie is not just a singer. She was literally part of a movement. Her single, go back and listen to the lyrics in her single. I'm not the average girl in your video. I'm not built like a supermodel. In fact, hold on. Let me see if I can pull the lyrics real quick. The video lyrics go like this. She said, sometimes I shave my legs and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I comb my hair and sometimes I won't. Depend on how the wind blows, I might even paint my toes. It really just depends on whatever feels good in my soul. I'm not the average girl from your video. And I ain't built like a supermodel. But I've learned to love myself unconditionally because I am a queen. I'm not the average girl in your video. My worth is not determined by the price of my clothes. No matter what I'm wearing, I will always be the India Arie. When I look in the mirror and the only one there is me, every freckle on my face is where it's supposed to be. And I know my creator didn't make no mistakes on me. My feet, my thighs, my lips, my eyes, I'm loving what I see. Then it goes back into the chorus again. I'm not the average girl in your video. This was her breakout single. And it was popular. People was bumping this, rocking this. You know how many young women went natural just because of this music? She said, am I less of a lady if I don't wear pantyhose? My mama said a lady ain't what she wears, but what she knows. But I've drawn the conclusion it's all an illusion. Confusion's the name of the game, a misconception, a vast deception. Something's got to change. Now, don't be offended. This is all my opinion. Ain't nothing that I'm saying law. This is a true confession of a life learned lesson. I was sent here to share with y'all. So get in where you fit in, go on and shine. Clear your mind, now's the time. Put your salt on the shelf. Go on and love yourself. Things gonna be all right. Her giving that opinion is literally who she is. Her giving that opinion about Young Miami's song is literally who she's been since day one. This is who Arie has been since day one. Since day one, this is who she's been. So again, half the women walking around proud of their natural hair today are standing on what Arie normalized. That's not just a singer. That's the blueprint. That's a legend. And y'all got the nerve to be up here treating her with disrespect because she gave her opinion, the same type of opinion she's always had. Trick Daddy of all people looked at Arie, more Afrocentric, more natural hair, and talked down on her looks. Then turned around and uplifted the more European, more manufactured image. That wasn't a joke. That was a confession. He basically told on a whole mindset that says the closer you get to natural Black womanhood, the less you're worth. That's basically what he was saying. Since y'all always want to call that out, why don't you call it out when it actually happens? That's what he basically said. And too many of you people laughed instead of catching what he was doing. Because y'all swear up and down y'all pro-Black, but I can't tell. I can't tell. If you sit back and let Trick Daddy drag Arie for Carisha, you definitely ain't pro-Black. Because you ain't never going to see Arie in no pink wig. You ain't never going to see her in no pink lace front. That ain't never going to happen. Now, I want you to think about what the culture has put on the throne. Young Miami, Carisha. Ask yourself, honestly, what is she known for? What is she known for? Not a catalog, not a message. All she's known for really at this point is who she was attached to and what it got her. And so you're gonna hand that to your daughters as the goal. How long is the Young Miamis, the Sexy Reds, the Meg the Stallions, the Cardi B's, even the Nicki Minaj's? How long are these gonna be the model for your daughters? You don't see nothing wrong with it yet? Look at what came out of that Diddy situation, the arrangement. The talk about the talk surrounding how much she was allegedly getting per month to be with that man. Now, look, I'm not here to convict anybody on a rumor. But the parts that were said out loud in the open, that's the model. Be chosen, be taken care of, possibly violated, and call it winning. That's what you're selling to these daughters. That's what you're selling to these young women. See, this is the whole fight. Image versus substance. One woman built something nobody can take from her. The other built a brand around superficiality, materialism, and basically BS. Trying not to curse, y'all, because I want you to hear this. One tells a young girl to be somebody. The other tells her to attach herself to someone to be somebody. Those are not the same thing. And anybody pretending that they are, you're full of it. Let's be real. See, they try to dress it up and they try to give it little names, like they'll call it soft life. Soft life. Sounds harmless, right? So soft life, as they sell it, means you basically go find a baller, go find a dude that got plenty of money to take care of you, which is low key the same as that P word that I'm not going to go into. Right? See, there's a difference between a man taking care of a woman who's building with him and a woman being taken care of because being taken care of is the entire plan. One is an actual relationship, right? The other is being a sponsor, glorified trick, right? And if the man is a trick, what does that make the woman? And before anybody says, I'm just going at the women, first of all, you should know me better than that at this point. I hold the men to the same fire every single week. If you wrong, you just wrong. It is what it is. A man who doesn't want to build gets the same verdict. This is the standard. It doesn't bend for who's in front of it. That's the whole point of having one. Here's why it's bigger than either of these two women. See, whoever Black people decide to give the crown to, that becomes the model. That becomes the instructions. Little girls study who we celebrate. They study who we celebrate and then they emulate it. They don't do what you say. They do what you reward. And right now, we're rewarding the wrong thing and acting surprised when they grow up chasing it. So don't clap for defending India Arie against Trick Daddy and then go right back to worshiping the opposite of everything she stood for. That's not accountability. That's just a trend. That's a mood that lasted a weekend. Pick a lane and actually live in it. If you really had to hand your daughter to one of these two women to guide her into becoming a woman, which one are you choosing? And if you already know the answer, why is that not who we're defending? Why is that not the woman we're uplifting? Because I don't care who you are. If you had the choice between who your daughter is going to have to emulate, between India Arie and Young Miami, we already know who it's going to be. If you got any sense. But we know many of you don't. But with that being said, I've been on here long enough and I'm about to get up out of here because I got things to do. Shout out to everybody that came through. I appreciate you guys for showing love. Shout out to my man James. He said, for the show. Shout out to Heed. He said, just listen to the truth. I broke down in tears. No doubt. Shout out to Mr. Lone Star as well. He said, I'm pissed this MF got on this Dallas, Texas shirt like he's sending the message that we're weak men. No, he needs to seek a battered men's shelter and take that MF shirt off. I know that's right. But yo, like I said, man, shout out to everybody that came through. I appreciate you guys for showing love. Make sure you guys go over and sign up for my newsletter. All you have to do is go to the website, theangrymanchannel.com, and sign up for the sign up for the newsletter. I got a newsletter dropping every Sunday, so make sure you guys go check out the newsletter. It's fire, and we're gonna keep it dropping every Sunday. And there's gonna be a coupon code in every edition of the newsletter where you can get 10% off of the merchandise. So make sure you guys go sign up for the newsletter. But other than that, man, I'm going to get up out of here and I'm going to holler at you guys later. Deuces.
The session is closed. The board is dismissed.
I gave you the blueprint, now go build a estate. Stop arguing with broke, man, stop debating with fate. We don't negotiate value, we dictate the price. You watch the show for free, I just gave you a slice. But the real ones know where the equity lives. We taking everything, we got nothing to give. The manual is waiting, you know where it's at. This ain't a gamble, it's a guaranteed bet.
We'll protect Lee, go and plant the seed. We'll protect Lee, that's the code we need. Go to the side, secure the command. The Angryman Channel, the standard of the land.
TheAngrymanChannel.com.
Get the shirt, get the books.
Start watching, start working. We up.
The session is closed. The board is dismissed.